A balanced body requires a balanced diet, ample exercise, the right exercise, and of course, many other things. Hello everyone and welcome to the Now in Times Talk from the Heart. Our guest today is Radhika Karle, a Master Pilates trainer and Pilates educationist. She is a nutritionist and co-author of the book Pure and Healthy, a healthy Indian cookbook. She is the only nutritionist in India to co-author a book. She has her Pilates studios in Mumbai, and her list of clientele are celebrities and of course industry captains. She is also the face of Decathlon India. Hello Radhika and welcome to our show. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thank you, Maria. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course, I've been waiting to speak with you and of course learn from you. Now, I have given just a very brief introduction of you. There is so much more to you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I'm sure the audience and our viewers are waiting to hear more about you.
Hopefully not bore anyone, but so you can, as you can tell from the accent, I didn't spend too much time in India in my formative years. I spent a lot of time abroad and did my studying in the US. So I have a master's degree in nutrition and dietetics. I was very fortunate enough to be able to do a fellowship in adolescent and sports medicine. And that was for nutrition as well. And so we got to work with a lot of college Division I athletes, as well as semi-professional athletes during that fellowship. So that was really nice. And it was during my nutrition fellowship that I had a small little fall. I went to go type up my notes and the doctor pulled the chair out from behind me by accident. And I'm all of 5'2", so it wasn't a big fall, but it was enough of a fall to create an impact. And at that time in college, I was a very big runner. The sports medicine doctor who checked me out said, run anymore, you can't do it, that's high impact. And he suggested Pilates. I went to my first class, I was all of 24 years young, and I am now 44 years young. And when I got into the class, I couldn't even touch my toes. And I vowed to myself that I had to be able to move really, really well by the time I got to the age that the women were in, who they must have been in their 40s or their 50s. And I'm happy to say now that I can move that way. So my journey into Pilates was kind of, no pun intended, but by accident.
And I like the way you said, I was 24 years young and now I'm 44 years young. So that's a novel way of looking at it. So, like you said, accidentally you got into Pilates. Now from the accident to Pilates to becoming a Master Pilates trainer and then training celebrities and now co-authoring your book. How has this journey been? How many years? 20 odd years, would you say?
So yes, it's been 18 years of teaching Pilates. It's been 5 years of being a master trainer. And it's been 12 years of having my brand, which is Radhika's Balanced Body. And it all came from passion, being very, very passionate about the movement, because I saw how it really changed my life, how it really changed the way that I moved, how it changed my mind-body connection as well. I used to go to the gym, but very, mindless kind of movement, not really focusing on what I was doing. And here you're connecting breath with movement. So that's how the Pilates studios came about. The celebrity clientele came about by chance. Aisha Shroff happened to be the first person that I trained, who then went on to tell another client, Sunita Kapoor. Sunita Kapoor came and trained with me, and I think it was like day 4 or day 5 of training with me. She said, would you train my daughter? At that time, no idea who the beautiful and famous Sonam Kapoor was, and sure enough, then the rest is history, as they say, and it's been 14 years now of training the Kapoor family. And as far as the cookbook was concerned, kind of fell into my lap in the same way. The author, or the lady who I've co-authored the book with, is Vidhu Mittal. Vidhu Mittal has written 2 books earlier, and she herself developed some intolerances and some allergies. So when she reached out to the publisher on writing her 3rd book to be able to combat some of the issues that she had and some of the dietary restrictions she had, the first thing the publisher said was that, I think you need some guidance and some help from a nutritionist as far as this is concerned. And my name came up, and we met, and we got along swimmingly, and therefore the book then happened. It was a 3-year journey with the book, but it was a fabulous experience.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. And now we come to the very, very important question, because we do speak about Pilates, and you just said, that you used to go to the gym and there used to be mindless exercises. I think we all do that. We all can't afford personal trainers. So there is one trainer who generally tells you, okay, don't do this, do this. But he or she doesn't really come and give us individual attention. So we have heard about Pilates, but what exactly is Pilates? We are not very sure. I mean, I'm sure there are many of our viewers who are like me, who are not very aware of what exactly Pilates is all about. So Radhika, tell us in simple terms, please, nothing scientific. I mean, it'll be swimming,
So Pilates is a form of movement, I'll start by saying, that was created by a man for men, right? And I really want to emphasize that, Maria, because Pilates is now thought of as something that only celebrities do, only women do, but it was a form of movement created by a man for men. So it was created by a gentleman named Joseph Pilates, who had no formal training in exercise or anatomy, but he was in a prison camp during World War I on the Isle of Man, and he saw all of these soldiers in the hospital getting muscle wasting and their muscles going into atrophy because they were just lying in beds. And he decided he needed to do something about that. He took old tires, he took springs from old mattresses, tied their arms up with the springs, made them do back bends over the tires. And then the story is, there's nothing that has been recorded, but the story is that a plague came through the Isle of Man, and the only people who survived were those from Joseph Pilates' ward. And he, of course, was intelligent enough, and when that plague came through, he was on the first ship sailing the Atlantic Ocean across to the US. And they all came and, they said, oh, how did these people survive? And they said, oh, it was this genius ward boy. But Joseph Pilates was already on his way to New York. On the ship, he met his wife, Nora. Nora was a nurse. And so she actually did a lot of the development of the anatomical part of the movement, which he termed as contrology. So it was termed contrology because it was just that. It was the control over your body by your mind. So
right.
Yeah, so he termed it as contrology, and then it went on to become Pilates. But in a nutshell now for all of us, Pilates is a form of movement that makes your activities of daily living easier to do. Whether that is getting in and out of your car, picking up your baby, carrying your suitcase, putting your suitcase up in the overhead compartment. Travel is back now. Everyone is traveling like crazy. The beaches in Goa are full again, which is great. So you should be able to put your suitcase up in the overhead compartment, and Pilates does all of that for you.
So like you rightly said, there is this misconception in most people's minds that Pilates is for ladies. In fact, we have a Pilates studio quite close by in Panjim itself, and I know that that there are a lot of women who are there, and the number of men much like a tiny bit. Why is it so? What is that block that comes and doesn't allow men to go ahead and say, I'm doing Pilates? more women say, oh, I'm doing Pilates, and they say it really proudly. Radhika, just so that you know, they love Pilates.
Yes, I mean, I think a large part of it is, I mean, I started by talking about celebrity clientele that I have, and I think it comes from that, is most of the celebrity clientele who are talking about Pilates are the ones who are your female clients. So whether it's your Sonam Kapoor or your Alia Bhatt or your Katrina Kaif, it's them who's highlighting it. And therefore it becomes this form of movement that women are doing. There's also a lot of very dancer-like movements in Pilates, and that comes from the fact that Joseph Pilates' first studio that he set up in New York when he landed there, which he called a gymnasium, it was just below the New York City Ballet Academy, and therefore he got a lot of ballerinas who came down to him. They were injured, and so he would fix them up and then they'd go back up, and therefore you have this very dancer-like style of movement that is in Pilates. But you go back to why it was originally created, and for men by a man.
So we all have to remember Joseph Pilates, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I've got that right. So, right. Now, how is Pilates different from other forms of exercise? Like you said, it just helps you to do all your movements, your normal movements, much more easily. So it brings in a lot of ease and comfort in everyday movements. However, what are the exercises that make Pilates different from other forms of exercise?
So I would say the first thing is the apparatus. So I'm here in my studio in Andheri, and you can see a couple of the pieces over here. We have a chair in the corner, we have a reformer, we have a ladder barrel over here. So these pieces of, I mean, we don't call them equipment, we call them apparatus. That's what sets it apart. It's spring loaded, so it's very, very gentle on your joints, which is why we say anyone from age 10 to 100 can do Pilates. So it's a form of movement for anyone and everyone. And the other thing also is that there's that focus on the core, so working the core muscles. But there is also, in Pilates, you have strength plus mobility. When you have strength plus mobility, that's what makes the activities of daily living much, much easier.
You spoke about the core muscles, right? For someone like me, how would you explain, where are they? Is it just the stomach? Are the core muscles only in the stomach?
So your core muscles make a big belt around your midsection. So from your lower back, wrapping all the way around and coming to the front. So there are 4 muscles of your inner core. Number 1 is your diaphragm, which sits under your lungs, and that assists for breathing. Number 2 is your transversus abdominis, which is the deepest muscle in your abdominal system, and that makes this big belt corset that goes across the front of your abdominals to your lower back. Number 3 are muscles that are called your multifidi that run all the way up your spine, and they help to keep your posture upright and help prevent you from tipping forward, so it's part of your balance as well. And then the last set of muscles, perhaps now most important, are your pelvic floor. And your pelvic floor is an intricate layering of 7 to 8 muscles that keep your organs up, keep whatever is needed in, and allow whatever should be going out.
So in a nutshell, my core muscles are the navel area and the back. So it comes from the back and it meets at the navel. I'm putting it very simply. I know. Do forgive me. Yeah. Yes. All right.
So the simplest, no worries. The simplest way to think of it is it's a can, right?
Right.
So it's like a cylindrical can. You have the top, you have the bottom, and you have all around the sides. And what does a can do? It holds the contents inside, nice and strong. Yes. And so what are we holding in? We're holding in our organs. We're holding in our spine. We're holding in a few other maybe bony joints, so bony junctures. So that's all there.
You spoke about that Pilates is about, there are 2 components. Could you just repeat those 2 components, please?
So you have the strength aspect of Pilates, which is obviously building the muscles, and that comes from using your body weight, which you do in mat Pilates, or by using the apparatus, which have springs, and that allows for the muscle mass to develop. And the other way is the other part of Pilates is mobility. So I want to take a moment to explain the difference between mobility and flexibility. So flexibility is just end range of motion where you might possibly be dumping into the joints. So I am flexible in my arms, I can lock them out, and that's great, right? But you start to put a lot of pressure on the joints, whereas Pilates focuses on mobility, which is end range of motion. So you can get the movement all the way, like if we talk about splits, you can split all the way out, but you're not dumping into your joints. You are actually working on the strength. You're using a lot of muscle strength for this movement. So that's the one thing that Pilates really focuses on is mobility, which is power and strength plus flexibility.
Okay, all right. So it's just that the joints are not getting injured. There is not too much of pressure on the joints. That's I'm putting it in simple terms. This is what I've understood from what you're saying, right? Okay, you also said that the apparatus that you use for Pilates has got springs. So that's a lot of resistance, isn't it? So it is resisting, it's pulling, pushing, and stuff like that. So is resistance training a part of Pilates, a major part of Pilates?
100%. It is. It's a very big part, especially if you're working on the apparatus. There's a really, really large aspect of resistance, which is really important because it's only with the resistance training will you build the strength and the muscles. And for women, that is especially important because with the resistance training, when you put the pressure on the muscles, that sends a signal to your bones that, hey, I need to get a little stronger to be able to withstand this pressure that these muscles are putting on me, and therefore your bone density increases. And women go through menopause. Once you hit menopause and hormonal levels change, bone density also gets affected. You start to lose bone density, but you can overcome that by doing these weight-bearing and resistance training exercises.
Right. So if I were to come to you, or any of our viewers were to come to Bombay, or if you start, of course, in Goa, that would be lovely. How often do you say a person has to do Pilates? Is it 6 days a week? Is it just twice or thrice? For a normal average person?
So in an ideal situation, you should be starting with 3 to 4 times a week of Pilates, and ideally on the apparatus as well, so you can build that strength in. And then you can always taper it down to twice a week. But women do need strength training to happen at least 2 times per week. That's important.
All right. And you speak about the different apparatus that you have. Like you said, there is a bed. It looks like a sunbed. If you bring it to go, I'm sure people will think it's, to chill in. Besides that, what are the different apparatus that you use in Pilates?
So we have the reformers, which is what's behind us over here. We have you would have seen the very famous, what's called a Cadillac, a trapeze table that looks like a bed with a canopy. There is that. There are chairs that are hanging, that are in the corner over there. So we have the combo chairs, which come with handlebars, great for upper body strengthening, for lower body strengthening. Our reformers here have towers attached to them, which also are spring loaded, so you can work that. And those are kind of some of the ones that Joseph Pilates originally created. There is the ladder barrel here in the corner that is really great for spinal mobility, for stretching, as well as some advanced abdominal work. We have arcs, foam arcs, so those work very well. And then the ones that we pull out, and our clients always groan when we pull them out, is the magic circle or the Pilates ring.
What would you say, Radhika, is your fitness philosophy? What are like 5 factors that you can name to a very strong and flexible physique? What would that be?
So I would say number one is consistency. You have to be consistent with whatever you do, right? You can't do something today, not do it tomorrow, and then expect to see results. Number two, which kind of goes hand in hand with the consistency, is that you have to be doing something that you enjoy. If you enjoy what you're doing as far as your fitness routine is concerned, you will continue with it, and then the
True.
consistency automatically comes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's the second thing. The third thing, and perhaps the most important part as far as being able to see results, is rest. If you do not rest your body, and when I say rest, it doesn't just mean, lying out and reading a book. It means going to bed at a certain time and getting up by a certain time and keeping that time regular. That's also really important. You need to get 7 to 8 hours of undisturbed sleep per night in order to have the proper recovery. So that's the third part. The fourth part is obviously your nutrition. So you should eat fresh, you should eat seasonal. I always say if you go to a grocery store, always stay on the outside edge of the grocery store. Don't go into the aisles. That's where all the packaged
Junk
foods
food.
are. That's where all the things that, yes, that's where all the things that have long shelf life are. There's a reason why they're on shelves there. So, so avoid that. And then the fifth thing I would say is taking time to just unplug, be on your own, and breathe, de-stress.
Breathe and de-stress. So does Pilates also involve breathing exercises? Do you all do breathing exercises like yoga does? There's pranayama in yoga. So is that also included here?
So we have a couple of distinct breathing patterns in Pilates. We have what's called a sniffing breath, which is very similar to Kapalbhati, and so it creates a lot of energy and heat in the body. Joseph Pilates was very much influenced by yoga as well. So we took a lot of Western practices and Eastern practices and blended them together, including Tai Chi. So we do in Pilates what's called lateral breathing, or sometimes it'll be referred to as posterior-lateral breathing. And that breathing pattern really works on using the entirety of your lungs. So again, very similar to some of the breathing patterns that you do in yoga. Yoga has what's called intercostal breathing, so it's similar to that. The one thing as far as breathing in Pilates is concerned is that there is a very distinct breathing pattern to every movement. So you will hear cues like inhale to prepare, exhale and reach your arms forward, curl the head, neck and shoulders forward. So there's a very distinct breathing pattern to everything. And Joseph Pilates said, first and foremost, learn how to breathe correctly.
Right. Now, I have heard many, you're not the first person who keeps saying, breathe correctly. How would you define, Radhika, breathe correctly?
So when the average person breathes, they usually use only about 30% of their lung capacity when they're breathing, right? So that leaves an entire 60% left. If you work on what's called lateral breathing, and that's taking your breath all the way down to the bottommost part of your lungs, so you're breathing and really working on exercising that diaphragm, that big muscle that's a part of your inner core, that is really a part of proper breath. Now, when you're in a relaxed state, you're doing abdominal breathing, and that's totally fine. You should be doing that because that allows the body to relax. You can't always be doing posterior lateral breathing. But if you do lateral breathing while you're exercising, it allows you to keep your core engaged. It allows your spine to become a lot mobile. You start to warm up the muscles in your back, and you use a lot more of your lung capacity. So lateral breathing is what we really like to focus on.
Sounds interesting. Now, most of us, we find excuses not to exercise, and there are some, I'm sure, like people like you who love to exercise. We all have this one very common excuse that we say, we are very busy. Now, when a person comes to you, to your studio, how do you plan their exercise schedule? What are the things that are to be considered when we start with Pilates?
So the first thing you should always have given to you as a first timer who joining a Pilates studio is what we call an initial assessment form. So we have this 2-page form. So we always tell our clients, come a little bit in advance to take some time to fill out that form. And that form has everything from name, address, contact information, emergency contact in case something happens. But it has a little picture of a human body at the bottom as well. And it's in 3 different views. So there's a front view, there's a side view, and there's a back view. And what the trainer does is you've answered all your questions, all your medical questions. Do you have any issues? Why are you here today? Do you have any aches and pains? What is your workout routine otherwise? And then the trainer spends a little bit of time, about 15 to 20 minutes, doing an assessment. So my team has been trained by me on how to do an assessment. So they're able to catch things very quickly when they see the client. And then they start to put their notes down next to those little human figures. So if you've got rounded shoulders, they'll put a little circle on the shoulders. If you've got a forward head, they'll put a little circle there and make those notes. So that way, going forwards, when you come back then for your second session, if you're doing a personal training session, the trainer has created a program that is very specific to, number 1, whatever they have seen, and number 2, what you have written over there, because there's a section for goals as well. And yes, we have a lot of people who come in and say, I want to lose 8 kilos in the next 8 days. That's just not possible. But we also spend a little bit of time chalking out goals with them as well. So the goals do not always have to be physical goals that you see. They might be things that you may not necessarily think of. You should be able to turn around in the back of your car and reach for your bag in the back at any given point in time without having any aches or pains.
Right.
You should be able to, if the bus is going and you need to catch it, you should be able to run and catch the bus.
All right. Okay. Now, we all know that exercise and diet are very crucial if you want to have a balanced body. There are many misconceptions about diet, there are many misconceptions about exercise. We all want to have that bikini body. I'm talking about the women, and you always have an idol. Oh, I would like to have his body and abs like his. And then we go on crazy diets. What, according to you, since you have, you are training people, what are some of the misconceptions about diet and exercise that are the most common?
So I'll start with the diet ones. I think the first one is that if I skip meals or if I eat less, I'll lose weight faster. So I always give the analogy of a car. Your body is like a car. And most often when you come to us, you are a Maruti 800 or you're a big Jeep and or actually our best analogy is you're a Maruti 800.
You're right.
Put a little bit of gas in there and it goes a long way, right?
Right.
But what you want to aim at is to make your body into a Ferrari or into a Lamborghini where you tap the pedal and zoom. You're burning through the gas really fast and you have to keep filling the petrol again and again, right? So that's what you want to aim at. So think about it that way. The more petrol you put into your body, which means the more food you put into the body, the better your engine is. That means you've got a superior engine because it's burning really fast. The other analogy that I give people is look at buffaloes, water buffaloes. They're humongous and all they eat all day is grass.
Right.
In contrast, look at a cheetah. A cheetah can eat an entire buffalo on its own, right?
Right.
And the cheetah is super lean. So think of it that way as well. So don't skip meals. You should be eating at regular intervals. You should be eating. Also, your portion control is very important. What you eat is very important. The time that you eat it is very important. So number 1 misconception is skipping meals will make me see results faster.
Could I interrupt, please? Could I interrupt, please? Mm-hmm. You said you should not skip your meals. You should have all your meals. Of course, you need to watch what you're eating, but with the knowledge that today intermittent fasting has so many benefits. It can help you overcome so many conditions, illnesses, and even cancer to a certain extent. And that's what we've heard, and now you're saying don't skip meals. So how does that work?
So you hit the nail on the head when you said, Maria, it can help so many conditions.
Right.
If you have pre-existing conditions like uncontrolled diabetes, irritable bowel syndrome, some sort of digestive condition, and then the last one also, which is kind of related to a digestive condition, is you have chronic constipation, then yes, intermittent fasting is great for you. It can help for these conditions. Even if you have, and that too, as far as the cancers are concerned, it needs to be cancers that are related to your digestive tract, whether it's esophageal or intestinal or stomach. So it's not necessarily that, skin cancer and intermittent fasting are going to help. No. And the whole idea behind that is you're giving your gut some time to rest,
right,
to heal. So behind all of this, it's you're giving that rest time to heal. So all of it is great. But if you're looking at intermittent fasting as a means to lose weight, unless you have the uncontrolled diabetes, then that's not it's not a great option for you. Also, Maria, a large part of it depends on your daily routine. So if you're like me and you wake up at 5:30 in the morning, at 6:15, you're working out, you're doing some sort of exercise. If I were to do an intermittent fast, by 1 o'clock, I'd be fat on my face.
Right.
So a large part of it depends also on what your routine is. And that's where when someone comes for a nutrition consult with us, we always spend that first hour and a half just understanding their routine, talking about, what it is that they do and what are their timings. And so that makes a very big difference.
Right. And you were talking about misconceptions about diet and exercise. If you can continue with that, please.
So the other misconception is, if I am sweating, it's a really good workout. And that's not the case. So I'm sure people in the north are, working out in the cold and they're not sweating. So sweat is not an indication of a good workout. You could have a great workout and not have even one drop of sweat on you. So that's another misconception, because people, when you're doing Pilates, a lot of times you may not sweat, and that's another reason why Pilates became really popular in the 1980s and the early 90s. These women would come in with their full faces of makeup, be able to do their Pilates class, and nothing would have moved, and then they would go out and do lunch with the ladies. So it's, it's not indicating, and they had beautiful bodies, so it's not really indicating much.
Right. So that's as far as the diet and the exercise. You said these were some of the misconceptions. One is that you need to eat. And the thing that you need to be careful about, however, is first and foremost is the type of lifestyle you have, like how much work you are doing and what is the profession maybe that you are in, the exercise that goes into it, and you decide about the quantity of food and what you're taking in. Am I right? Right. And the second thing is that sweat is not an indication of a good workout. So that's something really novel for all those who are watching. I'm sure this is something new for you because it's completely new for me. All those who are watching, we would like to take a small break. Let's take a small break. Radhika will be back with us. She's got lots more to tell us. And of course, she is going to demonstrate a few Pilates exercises which will help you and especially me. So Radhika, a small break. Please don't go anywhere and we'll be back soon. Welcome back to the Now in Times Talk from the Heart. We are in conversation with Radhika Karle, Master Pilates trainer, nutritionist and co-author of Pure and Healthy. Radhika, we were speaking about how the misconceptions of about diet and exercise. We all know diet and exercise are very important to have a balanced life. How would you say diet and exercise affects our well-being?
I mean, it has a huge effect. And I think if we've learned anything from the last 2 years of being in a lockdown, we have seen that by maybe not having access to everything because of inaccessibility, that has, as far as food is concerned, that has maybe changed our energy levels. And also being in this state of lockdown, being, having to stay put in one place, humans are by nature, we are very social beings.
Social beings,
so
true.
that has obviously affected us, yes, mentally. And so and the one thing we did see was that movement, if you moved through the lockdown period, and a lot of people went online, so we went online very, very quickly with our classes and our trainings. It made a huge difference to the way a person felt. So we really encouraged our clients, although our studios were all closed, we encouraged them to get online and move with us. We sent as much little Pilates equipment as we could to their homes if they had the space, and people continued with online training for almost a year and a half.
We are speaking about diet. What are, according to you, every nutritionist, every trainer has a different set of superfoods. What, in your opinion, which of these are the superfoods that you would say that everyone must have?
So my number one superfood is haldi, turmeric, and whether it's in the form of fresh turmeric that you can pickle and have with your meals, or powdered turmeric you can add to your water in the morning, but turmeric, that's number one. Great antibacterial. Everyone, I think, took to it through the pandemic, which was great,
right.
and hopefully continued. The second superfood is moringa, drumsticks, and that's a really great one. It's come back now in fashion in the form of moringa powder, but as we cook it in an Indian delicacy. So in Maharashtra, we cook moringa drumsticks in something called pitla, and which is made out of chickpea flour or besan. So we use that. It's in sambar in the south, and very, very powerful again, moringa. The third superfoods that is also again making a comeback is ghee, clarified butter, and great for digestion as well. So that's one that I always have on my rice and dal, is some ghee. The fourth one is coconut, which is big for me as a Maharashtrian. In Goa, that's a no-brainer. Coconut goes into everything. Coconut is really great as far as immediate energy. So it's a good one also if you're exercising. And then my last superfood is, it's kind of a out-of-the-box one, and that's eggs. So eggs are a perfect protein. They have all of the what are called essential amino acids, which your body cannot make. You have to get it from the outside, and it's great for your skin, your hair, your nails, and also for building the muscle back up.
So, what would be an alternative? I'm a vegetarian. If I were a vegetarian, I'm not. Definitely not. So, if I were a vegetarian, what would be the alternative?
So you're not going to get all of the essential amino acids out of it, but yogurt, dahi, curd is a good source of protein as well. And the only thing that I always say is that when we have our yogurt, there's that watery layer on top. That's where all the protein is. So don't throw that away. That's your whey, and that's where all the protein is. So if you're going to have your curd, you need that part. That's important.
Right, right. Now, you just said that you normally use clarified butter, ghee, over your rice and your dal. My ears, stood up like that, and I was like, rice? You're eating rice? Is rice a food that you would recommend? Because most of the time people tell you, get off your carbs. You want to become lean, carbs is a big no-no, right? And you're saying you eat rice. Can you explain that, please?
So your rice is a part of complex carbohydrates. It's starch, right? Now, what type of rice are you eating? So everyone has gone on this whole kick of brown rice,
Brown
but
rice.
whether it's brown rice, red rice, white rice, whatever it is, the calories are the same. And at the end of the day, it's a simple equation, calories in and calories out. So you need to make sure that your overall calorie intake is correct, and it's the portion control. So if I tell you that 1/3 cup of cooked rice is about one portion, and I put 1/3 cup of cooked rice on your plate, Maria, you would say, oh my gosh, where's my rice? So it's about the portion control, right? And yes, your as far as your nutritional value, your red rice, your brown rice is superior as far as nutritional value is concerned, but it's also harder to digest. Now, it is 38 degrees here today in Bombay. It is harshly hot. So you do not want something that is going to be sitting in your stomach for a very long time. So we have another lovely grain, which is called vari tandur, and it's very, very easy to digest. Maharashtrians have it during fasting. It's also known as samak ke chawal, so that's another one, and it's a chawal, yes, and it's okay to have, but you just have to make sure that you're having the right amount as far as the portions are concerned.
Okay. While trying to lose weight, sometimes I've tried it many times, and of course I get demotivated when I don't see that scale coming down, it is at that place, it's like it's stuck, and then you get so demotivated. How do I keep myself motivated? I'm exercising, I'm trying to control my portion size, however that scale is just not moving. What do I do?
So I think it's important to vary your goals. Your goals should not only be based on what you're seeing on the scale. Your
Right.
goals should have a emotional aspect to it, it should have a mental aspect to it, and it should have a physical aspect to it, right?
Right.
So I think
Right.
that's what wellness is all about. So when you come to a gym, it should not just be, I need to look a certain way. Yes, that's important. But I think if you hit the other goals, you should be patting yourself on the back, or you should be acknowledging the fact that you have maybe hit other goals. Simple things like, I am no longer skipping breakfast. That's a great goal, right? I am drinking the X amount of water that my body needs in order to stay hydrated. That's a goal you have hit. And even then, and the last one is, I am not reaching for food every time I get stressed, or I get frustrated, or I get angry, or I get sad, right? So realizing that you do a lot of emotional eating. So that's a goal as well, right? And then if you hit these other emotional and mental goals, and you tick mark those, then you'll actually see that those physical goals that you are reaching for, you're probably going to reach those a lot quicker than you did in the past.
So, in other words, what you're telling us is we've got to learn to appreciate the other things that are happening along with the weight loss. So, look at the positive side, and the weight loss will happen eventually, right? Now,
Yes.
Radhika,
Yep.
you have recently launched something called the Happiness Project with behavior therapist Dr. Nishreen. Sounds interesting. Happiness Project. I think we all want to be happy. And if we can join this project, of course, why not? So tell us, what exactly is this project? What exactly do you do? What is the objective of your project?
So the Happiness Project, which I have launched with Dr. Nishreen, who is very, very senior behavior therapist, a counselor, many, many years of experience. We launched it actually during the first lockdown. And it came out of a need of seeing that people were getting anxiety, depression, that loneliness as well that was creeping in. Minds were going here, there, and everywhere. And what was happening is that we were seeing that because people had anxiety and depression that was creeping in, they were not able to get back to their exercise routines. So we decided to band together, and what we did was we did several live sessions, and then we took it to the corporates as well. And Dr. Nishreen would start the session with mindful exercises that would get you calm, that would bring the anxiety down, that would help you to focus. And then once you were in that mental state, that better mental state, then I took over and we would do an exercise routine. And so it was, and she taught some amazing and very simple techniques on how to bring the anxiety and the stress and the depression, or depression maybe a little bit further down, but the anxiety and the stress levels, how to bring those down with some simple mindful exercises. And then I saw that when I came in to do the rest of the movement, which Pilates and very mindful movement, people were able to stay with me for the entire 30 minutes and really felt so good. Endorphins were at an all-time high. People were feeling much more relaxed. People were feeling much more connected with their bodies. So the Happiness Project was just really a fantastic hit because of that.
The celebrities that you have trained, like you rightly said, are mostly women. How would you define a fit woman? What would make a person, like, for you to define them as fit?
So I think I touched upon it a little bit. When I talk about fitness, I talk about the emotional, the mental, and the physical aspect of fitness, right? Let's take the physical first. Obviously, you would want your body to have a certain amount of muscle on it,
right.
Body fat percentage being at a certain place. And so it doesn't even have to be how you look, right? It's really about that body composition, making sure all your blood levels are within normal limits, you don't have any vitamin and mineral deficiencies, you're eating a nice balanced diet plan or nutrition plan. So that's the physical aspect. The second one is the mental aspect. So really making sure that you are making your own happiness number one priority. I think, unfortunately, women always make that a third or a fourth or a fifth priority. You know, your first priority is your children, your second is your husband, your third is your mother-in-law and father-in-law, your parents, and then you're always at the bottom of the totem pole. And I always tell my female clients, if you yourself cannot be happy and healthy, how are you going to help your children or your family be happy or healthy? So the mental aspect is really making your happiness your number one priority. The third aspect is the emotional aspect of it all, and making sure that you're talking about your emotional well-being. And now, take a moment here, because we have spoken about the Happiness Project, and my association with Dr. Nishreen, who is a therapist. I think it's really, really important to have a therapist. There's nothing wrong with it. This taboo about mental health and having mental health issues, we need to completely get rid of. I think we always talk about, oh yes, but I talked to my mother about it, or I talked to my sister about it. It's not the same. You need someone who's going to give you sound medical advice, who's going to not judge you for what you're going to say, who's going to look at things in a very objective manner. And the one thing my therapist used to always do is give me homework. So, go back and what are you going to do with this information that you have now given? How are you going to process it? So I think the mental aspect is we need to continue addressing in this country, especially for women.
It's so nice of you to say that, because we at the Navin Times believe that mental health is a very big part of our wellness, of our well-being. And there are, like you rightly said again, that mostly in India, especially in India, we'll give it the back burner treatment, and we'll do that later. And it's not priority. But yes, it is, and we all should take up our mental well-being as important and as priority. Now, with Pilates, you were showing us some of the equipment at the back, and you said, these are the things. Now, if I want to do Pilates at home, do I require these apparatus, as you've called them? Do I need to have all of them, or can I do it without them?
You can do it without it. It's mat Pilates got very, very popular during the pandemic and during the lockdown as well, because there was no equipment was needed. Maybe a few things like if you had a scarf or if you had some water bottles, we added those in for a little bit of extra help. But I can show you some three really, really great exercises that you should do in your chair while
Right.
sitting, whether you're sitting at home, you're sitting on the sofa, you're sitting in your office. So the three movements that I always say are really important is number one is extension, so getting your mid back to move. Number two is rotation, and number three is side bending, or what we term as lateral flexion. So if we look at extension, so the difference with extension in Pilates, I'm going to give you a little side view over here,
Right,
is
right.
that we are doing extension from the middle of the back. So we're using the middle of the back, we're not using
Yeah.
the lower back. So if you imagine that you have a light on your heart and you need to shine that light on the top of the ceiling, right at the corner where the wall meets the ceiling, you got to shine the light on your heart there, and then you relax. So you're lifting up and you're lowering. So that way
Right.
the mid back is starting to move and you're keeping the lower back very steady, because as we learned earlier, a part of your inner core is at that lower back, and so you want
Right.
to support it. The second one is rotation. So you cross your hands across your chest, lift your elbows away, and you imagine someone has cemented your hips down onto your chair, and you rotate from your rib cage, your neck, and your head. So your hips don't move, and you rotate, look over the shoulder, back to center. And you rotate and back to center. And as you do this, you're not shifting the weight on your hips. So in essence, you're doing what we call you're massaging the discs between your vertebrae, you're nourishing them. And then the last one, which is a really important one if you spend large amounts of time sitting, is a side bend. So you lift one arm up, bring it close to your ear, the opposite hand is reaching down, and you reach over to the side. And in this one as well, you don't want to be sinking, you want to think about creating length through both sides of your waist. So again, the arm that is reaching up to the top corner of the wall on the opposite side. So you're going to create this lovely stretch, and you're going to feel this lovely stretch, especially at the lower back. And so these three movements are essential movements for anyone who is spending large amounts of time sitting, keeps the back moving, keeps the discs all nice and nourished and healthy, and also gives you a little bit of extra work to your center, because you're working on keeping that center very steady as you move everything else.
So, the first one, let me get this right. You said we need to look back. So, am I, like, what is the degree
looking up.
approximately? Okay, I'm looking up and then going back a bit, right?
So the degree is about 30 degrees. So you're going from here
Right.
out here, not
Okay.
more than that. Yes, because if you go more than that, you're just going to be dumping into your lower back. You're going to be compressing and jamming and pinching into your lower back, which we don't want.
Okay. You started your career in India. You were in the United States. You came to India because you've noticed that there was a major need, and you have proved that you can make a career out of it. Would you recommend this career to others who are looking at making a career in the fitness industry? Would you say a Pilates trainer is something that they should look at and really think hard about and then jump in?
So the one thing that I always say is that this is a 24/7, 365 days a year job. When people have, when there are bank holidays and your office is closed on a Monday, the Pilates trainer is going to have double the number of clients, because everyone's going to say, hey, I got a holiday, I want to come, and I don't want to come at my 6 a.m. slot, I want to come at 10. So you can kiss all the bank holidays goodbye. It's if you are passionate about movement, if you're passionate about helping people, I mean, this is a service industry at the end of the day, and you also really have a deep desire to understand the human body, because there's a lot of anatomy involved in Pilates as well. It's not just movement. You
Right.
will see people will come to you with all sorts of aches and pains and conditions. We have physiotherapists who recommend Pilates to their patients, and therefore they come and land up in our space, and so we need to understand anatomy for that reason. So if you have all of those, the passion, the want to help, the desire to learn about the body, then yes, it's a great career. It can be very lucrative. I just read an article yesterday about how someone talks about how, yes, the poor Pilates trainer, no Pilates trainer is poor. So I have created this beautiful setup, but yes, you are going to be able to make a lucrative career out of this if you invest in your education, if you invest in good equipment, and also if you continue with your education. There has to be continuing education has to be a very important aspect of this. So
Wow. All right. I'm sure our viewers have learnt a lot. The 3 exercises of chair Pilates that Radhika has shown and demonstrated, I'm sure can come of use to many of you. It definitely will help me. I'm sure I'm going to try it. Thanks, Radhika. And it was so lovely speaking with you. We have learned so much, and I'm sure many more people, especially the men, who are, going to look at Pilates as as an option, besides the gymming and stuff like that. For all our viewers, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your time, for your attention. And I'm sure you would also love to say thanks to Radhika. We truly have learnt a lot. Radhika, thanks to all of you. And from the studio and from all of us, till next time, take care and thank you and bye-bye.